Hi YouTube, it's Kathy and welcome to the Books and Beer tag. I decided to create this tag because I spend every Wednesday in my bathtub with a book and a beverage. Sometimes that beverage is beer. And then I realized with the different flavor profiles of beer, you could actually come up with some really good questions for books. So I picked 12 types of beers, made up some bookish questions, and we're going to answer them today. First we have lager, widely consumed but not necessarily tasty, a book that is popular but not particularly interesting. Can you tell I'm not exactly a lager fan? For this I went with Anything by Dan Brown. I've read 4 of his books, they're very formulaic, and they don't really stick with you as much as they really should. But if you're just looking for a book to pass the time, this will do the job. The next is Indian Pale Ale, Prepared for a Long Journey, a book that took you on a very long trip, and for this I picked The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. Not only is this book actually about going on a journey from one side of the galaxy to the other, but all of the things that happened within it were such an interesting journey. Not to mention it's the first in the series that I am very excited to continue. Next up, Stout, Dark and Strong, a dark book that left you with wobbly legs. For this one I picked The Raw Shark Text. This one is a very strange book that I found while I was living over in Ireland. The main character wakes up and doesn't know who he is or where he is, but apparently he's in his home, and previous him has written him notes about who to trust and who not to. This book really plays mind games, and I thought that something was happening to my brain as I was originally reading it. So it definitely left me a little bit wobbly. Bitter, a pale ale with angst, a book or character with a I'm different than everyone attitude. For this one I picked Will Grayson by John Green and David Levithan, which was actually the first LGBT themed book on the New York Times children's bestseller list. What's interesting is the 2 different Will Graysons so named in this book both have a little bit of this attribute to them. Will Grayson #1 just doesn't want anyone to notice him, even though he's got a best friend who wants everyone to notice him. And Will Grayson #2 feels extremely isolated and is very angsty because of it. Next we have Saison, extra bubbles and flavor with less of a punch. A light read with something interesting. For this I decided to go with a book that I just recently read, and that's Anna and the French Kiss. This is light, this is fluffy, it is not very hard-hitting at all, but I found the aspect of it being set in Paris interesting. It's one of those cities that I would love to travel to and just haven't gotten around to checking it off my bucket list yet. Next up, Ale, warm fermentation without bitter hops, a comfortable favorite read. For this one I just had to go with Queens of Geek. This one is so easy to read, and even though there's conflict in this book and there's strife in this book, it's just such a warm fuzzy thing that I can just consume in an afternoon and just come back to time and time again. Eisbock, beer so strong it removes whatever freezes. A book with a society that is extremely cutthroat. For this one I had to go with another recent read, and that is An Ember in the Ashes. On one side of the political spectrum, you could be a slave. On the other side, you could be a child soldier. This is not a society that I would particularly like to be in. Next up, Ghosts, sour and sometimes salty, a book with some acid or that made you salty. For this one I had to go with Beauty Queens by Libba Bray because of the acidic sass therein. This is a contemporary retelling of Lord of the Flies, except for the people that wind up on the island are all beauty queens on the way to a beauty pageant. And it has a lot of sassy things to say about contemporary culture that just everyone should read this book, basically. The satire is on point. This next one is a mouthful, although I would not mind a mouthful of this beer right now, so I'm going to read it off my notes. Lambic, wild yeast beer fermented in old open barrels, a book with an outlandish premise that was worth the time you invested. For this one, I'm actually going to go with a non-fiction book, The Stone of Destiny. If you've been on my channel for a while, you might know that about a decade ago I lived in Edinburgh for a year and I used to run tours there. The very last story I would tell on the tour was this story about the Stone of Destiny. This was a stone that all of the Scottish monarchs used to sit upon when they were coronated, and when the English invaded in the late 13th century, they stole the Stone of Destiny, took it down to Westminster Abbey and stuck it under the throne there so that anyone would be coronated on that throne would also be coronated over the people that live in Scotland. Understandably, Scots were kind of annoyed by this. There were many treaties signed where they were supposed to give it back and they just didn't. I mean, England does have a reputation for going to places saying, oh, we'll just hold on to this for you until you can keep it properly and then just never giving it back. Well, in the 1950s, a group of university students hatched a plan to steal back the Stone of Destiny, and it's amazing. Also, while I was living in Edinburgh, they turned this story into a movie starring Charlie Cox. So it was cool to watch this in the theater while in Edinburgh. Next we have Double or Double, Monastic Brewing, a book so important to you you had to read it at least twice. This one will come as no surprise for those of you who know my favorite book from last year and possibly ever, which is Words in Deep Blue by Kath Crawley. This is a book about friendship, a book about love, a book about grief, and it's a book, which I love. I love books. It's a split narration where one character is mourning the loss of her brother and nobody in her small hometown knows about it, and the other character lives and works in his family bookshop. I absolutely adore this book, and although I am not a very big rereader, I have read it twice. Next up we have Barley Wine, so much alcohol that it can't be classed as mere beer. A book that should have been a series, or a series that packed a lot into the few books it had. For this one I decided to go with a tiny little book that I wish was a series because you could do so many interesting things with this premise. And that is The Murders of Molly Southbourne. The premise of this book is every time Molly bleeds, a new murderous Molly is born from her blood. So obviously she doesn't want to like nick herself while she's shaving her legs or get a paper cut, but I don't know if you know this, people with uteruses bleed once a month, assuming they're in their childbearing years. So yes, every time she gets her period she has to deal with murderous Mollys. This is a tiny little book, and I would have loved to see like spin-offs of the different murderous Mollys maybe living different lives. Maybe some of them aren't that murderous. Who knows? Maybe they could figure out how to make them not murderous. I don't know. And our last category is seasonal, a beer with a limited brewing window. A book or genre you only read when you are in the perfect mood for it, and for me, this is poetry. I suffer from that classic feeling of it being inaccessible, and if I don't like it, I wonder if it's because I don't understand it. And that makes me feel inadequate, and I don't like feeling inadequate, especially when I read for pleasure. Now, obviously not all poetry is like this, and I have found poetry I do enjoy, but I need to be in the right mindset and not automatically go into it thinking that it's going to make me feel inadequate. Incidentally, if you're looking for some really good poetry, I'm really loving what Amanda Lovelace is doing right now. The Princess Saves Herself in this one was amazing, and I need to find The Witch Doesn't Burn in this one because I'm sure that one is going to be amazing too. There are all sorts of trigger warnings for the poems in those collections, but they are at the beginning of the book, so you can self-select. And there you have it, that is the books and beer tag. I'd like to point out that if you don't drink, you can still totally do this tag. You do not have to have had any of these beers to do it. This is the part of the video where I tag some people. I'm going to tag 10 people just to really try to get this tag out there. If you are not one of them, feel free to do this anyway. And if you do this tag, please let me know down in the comments below because I would love to see your answers to these questions. I'm going to tag Sajed from Books Are My Social Life. I'm going to tag Joshana from Joshana C. I'm going to tag Kelly from Sir Rainbow Sky Child. I'm going to tag Paige from Princess and the Scrivener. I'm going to tag Natasha from My Reading Is Odd. I'm going to tag Chelsea from Chelsea Darling Reads. I'm going to tag Julie from Pages and Pens. I'm going to tag Jen from Jem Campbell. And I'm going to tag Simon from Savage Reads. I will link all of their channels down below so you can go check them out because they're people that I really enjoy. So how did I do? Did you like my questions? Did you like my answers? Let me know about it down in the comments below. On the way down to the comments, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. You can like and share this as you see fit, and I will see you next time. Bye!